eliminating disruptions, and improving comfort, health, and safety of the interior of the building, and then maximizing your facility's return on investment for what monies you are investing in the components of your facilities and in managing them, and then also looking to lower life cycle costs. And our solutions and expertise relate not just to roofs, but to the entire building envelope and how all these components impact the facility's performance. And many people ask, well, what does the building envelope mean, or what is that? And so any of these external components and how they tie together in a performance basis for how the interior performs based on the exterior performing to keep out the elements and other contaminants or things that can cause issues inside the facility or the building envelope. So keep in mind the entire building envelope is an integrated system, and that we're going to speak specifically to roof restoration today, but there are additional exterior surfaces and components that can also be restored that we can help you with as well. And so keep in mind too that roofs are not a static entity. So changes in temperature, wind force, weight of rain or snow, hail, other precipitation, maintenance issues, all of these things can cause or have an impact. So unavoidable expansion and contraction can weaken the roof system and cause conditions or damage or lack of performance or failures within the roof system and other building envelope components. But part of the beginning of a proactive restoration-based methodology, which has multiple benefits to facilities and especially schools with limited budgets and abilities. So the beginning of a proactive strategy is knowing what you have and then being able to prioritize what you do in those situations. So this graphic here showing this green and yellow, orange, red. Keep in mind that this is a simplistic way of looking at maybe what a snapshot of one of your facilities may look like, in that when we're doing assessments and trying to help categorize or help you by knowing what you have and then prioritizing what options or what things can be done, we're looking at maintaining what's good, repairing the fair, and restoring the marginal, and we'll speak specifically to that in throughout the rest of the presentation, and then replacing only truly the failed. And in many situations, even though a component has failed, it still may not create a health and safety issue, and we may look to prioritize some of these other categories for greater return on your investment. But to most of you, how do you know when these conditions exist or what options that you have? And that's where your Tremco facility experts come in, and we can help you through that process, because many times you may not know what conditions are, or you may have been advised things that limit your options. So in this next basic example here, I wanted to show you or kind of walk you through an example of the benefit financially of knowing what you have and when or how possibly to prioritize what things are going on that you may not even be aware of within your facilities. So in this case study, the infrared analysis, and there's diagnostics that were performed, and these like red shaded areas are just indicating where there may have been some water or some wet that had gotten into this roofing system. And so it's a small amount, about 11,000 or 1,100 square feet of wet insulation was what the infrared results showed. And at a cost of $50 a square foot to solve this problem, $57,000. But in this situation, this was over a concrete deck, and this was not a school, it was a commercial facility. And so the building owner was like, well, we're not really seeing any impacts inside the building, and kind of if it's not broke, don't fix it. So they chose not to do anything about it at this point. A few years later, we came back and the infrared analysis was repeated. And now you can see in just a few years, just 2 years, by not doing anything about this situation, this had grown exponentially. The amount of wet that had infiltrated into this system, into this insulation, was now about 6,000 square feet, where initially it was about 1,000. And at, again, $50 a square foot, just to keep numbers simple, now this represented about a $300,000 issue. And so in this situation, the facility director was wanting our help to try to maybe demonstrate what this might look like in a few more years to try to convince the building owner to do something about it. And so we extrapolated out here, just at a much slower rate than it was growing. And as you can see here, after what might have been in just a few more years, or maybe even another year, this, again, the situation continues to grow. And many times this is what goes on into the point where if you're not aware of what's happening or what's going on through diagnostics or proactive preventative maintenance, you may not know that these conditions are in place until many times the cost of doing nothing or the cost of the unknown can mean that the ultimate is that you then have to replace that entire system. And so here again, keeping numbers simple or keeping numbers the same, you can see that if you look at it from an aspect of this prioritization or knowing what you have and being able to prioritize, this is really a priceless approach, because you can see with just one building or a couple of roof sections involved here, how just in a few short years from phase 1 to 2, 3, and 4, how exponentially this can grow, and then also the cost or the impact. And especially with school districts where there's limited budgets and not the ability many times to have money to be able to assess all the needs in a given period of time, knowing these phases or these conditions is a key component here. And keep in mind these colors, this isn't just a simple 2 or 3 color system. This is actually represents like 100-point scale that we use in condition assessments and in doing diagnostics to try to educate or help our clients be able to know where they are, what they have, and then know what options they have when we look specifically to systems that can be restored. And so here's another example, and this situation here just simplistically shows or demonstrates the value of being able to have the option or a company that can do restorations, because significant here is that in this analysis, this was where a number of buildings or a number of roof sections for a client, they had been told that these roofs needed to be replaced. And we were able, through diagnostics and testing, to be able to determine that 13 of these roof sections could actually be restored. And so the original cost of replacing these would have been about 2.8 million, but the restoration was significantly less, resulting in an upfront cost avoidance of almost 1.5 million, a little over that. So just in our methodology or our approach to be able to do these diagnostics and give you options, there can be significant cost avoidance, and also the ability for you to be able to allocate funds in a way that all key shareholders can get on board because they understand or know why we're doing what we're doing in a very simple to understand format, and that these systems then included a 20-year warranty or a long-term warranty. And many times the restoration warranties are the length of a replacement, and sometimes longer. So when we talk about roof restoration, what does it mean, or how do we look at if your roof qualifies for restoration? So keep in mind that determining eligibility for restoration is not just a visual process. There's advanced diagnostics, inspections and analysis, ASTM, labs, and testing that are crucial to determine if roofs or other systems are restorable. And so in the case of roofing, we're going to look at what is the roof made of? Is this a single ply? Is this a built-up roof system, a metal system? What's the insulation? Also, is the roof strong enough to be able to be restored? What is that tensile strength or the ability to be able to withhold or maintain to accept a restoration system? What shape is the deck or the structure, the underlying aspect of that system? And then are there multiple roofs, a roof over a roof? Within many situations, building code might limit your ability if you've got one roof and then you installed another membrane or another roof system over it. But in the case of restoration, because the top layer of the waterproofing is monolithic, this does not mean that there's another roof over a roof. So in many situations where facilities believe that they have to tear off and replace down to the deck, doing a restoration under building code allows us to move forward with that, where if you were just applying a roof membrane over a roof membrane, you would not be able to do that. And then in older or built up systems, many times because it was the practice, there can be asbestos in those systems or in those older roof systems. And through, again, core testing and analysis, we can look at and determine, is there asbestos? But that doesn't eliminate our ability to be able to do a restoration, because a restoration can encapsulate that asbestos. And that is an acceptable practice, and then is usually much more cost effective than having to remove and dispose of or abate that asbestos. And then also masonry. So not only in exterior walls, but also in parapets or chimneys or other aspects, again, of that entire building envelope, tuck pointing or masonry, and even just not related to the porous materials, but masonry can be an issue or allow water into the system. In fact, many times we find that there may be what's considered to be a roof leak, and it's actually coming from an exterior wall or another component within the roof system or the building envelope. And then most importantly, in many situations, is that insulation wet? Has water infiltrated that system? And so again, diagnostics and analytics are very important here. So moisture meter analysis, infrared scans, which I kind of walked you through that example earlier of being able to determine, or we can see where water has entered that system, or nuclear testing, which can determine much more depth or pinpoint those systems. So all of these things are incorporated or are considered when we're looking at, does a roof or does a system qualify to be able to be restored? And across the country, we've found, and I just want to mention these because there's a lot of reasons, and maybe these are the top 7 that we hear, that we come across, as to why many institutions and specifically schools may replace their roof systems, and many times prematurely. And that can be because they're having leaks or problems, a number of variety of reasons that may be happening, or the roof is just old in its assumed life cycle. Maybe roof insulation is substandard, or funding becomes available and you're looking at, hey, let's just replace this system or replace this roof. Many times they may be told, or they may have had an analysis done where someone else told them that it had to be replaced. And in certain situations, standard policy or practice may indicate that your policy within your district or your organization is, well, every 20 years we replace these roofs, or this is our process or our policy. And then warranties have expired on an existing system. And in many of these situations, regardless of the reasons that they gave or initially thought that they needed to replace a roof, they weren't aware that there was restoration options and that they had options and additional solutions that they could take advantage of. So in looking at why would you restore a roof, there's significant cost savings and also other aspects that are significant. So this savings compared to typical replacement costs. And we'll go through some specific examples in a few minutes and outline or detail the significance of what some of those replacement costs versus restorations can be. It's a faster and a less labor-intensive installation. It's less disruptive to building occupants than replacement. So in many situations, restorations can be done while school is still in session or the building is occupied with no disruption. So not a lot of odor or noise or anything that the building would need to not be occupied, because doing these restorations are less disruptive. And then the reduction of landfill waste and other environmental factors. And again, low or no odor systems that are great for sensitive environments. And then white reflective roofs can reduce energy costs as well as have an aesthetic appealing look to them that many old or leaking or problemed roofs may not possess any longer. So it can refresh that as well and make things much more appealing, which again, these systems too can be repeated. So restoration can be re-restored. So at the end of the warranty, a full system warranty, warranties can be extended, or these systems can be re-restored, and sometimes even at a lower cost than initially, because if we've been maintaining and watching these, it's a much simpler process doing it again. And also, it's not regarded as another roof over a roof. So it does not have to be torn off or replaced down to the deck. And so from an impact of sustainability, there's a number of aspects that have a financial impact and an environmental impact at the same time. So when there's unnecessary replacement, when a full system is being torn off and disposed of in a landfill, the environmental impact has a cost, and also really it's wasteful and can cost everyone quite a bit more. And what I mean by that is that millions of tons of square feet of performing, dry, serviceable building or roofing materials are needlessly torn off buildings every year. So this produces, as I mentioned, millions of tons of debris that's dumped into landfills every year. But if that insulation or if some of those most costly components don't need to be removed because we can restore that system. So we can remove what is wet, or we can remove what is faulty or damaged and keep what is performing in place. That's what helps us reduce the cost. And also, you're not paying twice. So you paid for it out of your budget once originally, and then if components that are still have life to them or can remain useful within the system, if you're tearing them off and replacing them needlessly, you're paying twice for a component that you don't have to. So keep that in mind, because many times insulation and some of these components can be the most costly components of a building envelope or of a roof system. And so being able to restore, or knowing what you have or what components do have to come out so that a restoration can happen, again, is part of where these significant savings can come from. So let's look at fluid applied, these systems, these restoration systems, which have components that qualify as liquid applied roofing and are actual roofing systems. So many of these systems can be used in a new roof situation, but are also used to, again, restore many systems. So from a type of system, nearly every type of roof system can be restored if it qualifies. So from single plies or EPDM rubber roofs to modified or built up roofs, gravel surfaces, other single plied roof systems, even metal too, can all be restored. But liquid applied roofing, in just some of the major benefits, is very economical. It has a bright white, reflective, energy efficient top coating to it. Very low to no odor, weather resistant, abrasion resistant. So it's environmentally friendly, easy to maintain, easy to repair, and again, eligible for long-term full system warranties. And then, as I mentioned, yeah, you can even restore gravel or built up roofs And so in looking at those systems, the aggregate or the gravel that's adhered can deteriorate, but often not really necessary to replace or have to remove all of that. But loose gravel can become windborne and dangerous. In many scenarios or situation, and then missing gravel embedded in the system exposes the roof and other components to allow water to infiltrate that system. So, and also be, subject to the elements, UV, sun, rain, hail, other contaminants or environmental issues as well. And then maintenance can be difficult to determine when or where these systems may be allowing these degradations to and water and other components to enter in the system. And then replacement is expensive, very labor intensive, messy, disruptive with these built up systems. So gravel roof restoration or built up restoration, it can be a quite simple process. And as we like to say, easy as 1, 2, 3. So in the alpha grade restoration system, I'm just going to walk you through the process here a little bit. And that is loose gravel is vacuumed up and necessary repairs are made. And then the alpha grade, as I said, those three components of that system, the leveling coat then secures that gravel. A base coat then is applied. And then next, that reflective top coat application. And so the result of that restoration system for the built up is, again, a highly reflective waterproof surface, can help in lower energy use and reduce the strain on HVAC equipment. And in addition, you see these rooftops or these HVAC units that are there, we can do restoration to those units and those components as well. So it's not just the roofs that can be restored, not with the same means, but just to mention that. So there's also a cost-effective way then to be able to prolong the life of rooftop HVAC equipment as well. And then the surfaces can also be tinted to meet various aesthetic requirements if there's certain colors, or if that bright white was something that was not desirable, there are some shades or colors that can be chosen from, and then again, available for those long-term full system warranties. And as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to share just some of a few project profiles to demonstrate the savings and some of these before and after pictures of KPN projects that we've done throughout Pennsylvania. So in this project spotlight, here's an example of Great Valley School District. So this was a metal over shingle recover system, and then the flat roof systems were then restored as well. So there's two different types of roofs that were on this facility. And in this situation, the shingles remained in place, and we repurposed then also the vapor barrier. This kept the shingles out of the landfill, and then restoration was completed for nearly half the cost of replacement in this situation. Moving on to another at Susquehanna Township High School. So here was some flat black rubber EPDM roofs that were restored. The savings here was $1.2 million. So this again was a non-disruptive process that was completed while students were in session. And then in this scenario or situation, many times there may be economies of scale, or if we find we were able to not have to replace as much as decking or other components, in this situation, the school was actually given like a credit or a deduct change order. So they got money back in this situation. So not only did we not go beyond or over budget, but we were actually under budget in this scenario. Bethlehem Area Vocational Technical School. So these were flat MB or modified roof systems that were restored. And then these were severely deteriorated MB systems that they were planning on full replacement. So here again, roof restored for a savings of approximately $1.8 million. again, highly reflective surface, can lower energy bills, and you can see the yellow, the walkways, and so there's some other safety aspects that were incorporated into this system as well. Williamsport, again, an EPDM that was restored. And then throughout Pennsylvania, many building owners have metal roofs that have begun to age or break down due to ultraviolet exposure and other issues that not only affect the performance but also the aesthetic appeal. So they fade, or as you can see to the left here in this situation at Rifton Elementary School. And many times the thought is metal systems must be replaced. And here again, roof restoration can happen, metal roof systems. And this was an example that the project savings, again, $2.5 million versus the cost of replacement. There was no change orders. This was done under the contract, greatly improved aesthetics. And again, full system warranty was included. And similar metal roof restorations have been successfully completed at a number of different schools. And these are just some of them: Royersford, Milton Hershey School, Penn State Hershey Medical Center, Philadelphia School District, Central Dauphin School District, and as I mentioned, many others across and throughout Pennsylvania. So I mentioned these were KPN projects, and most of you are already members of the KPN, but have used the cooperative contracts for other solutions. And so I want to spend just a little bit of time talking about the cooperative purchasing benefits for our solutions and for roofing or building envelope solutions. So just keep in mind that these are nationally bid and locally awarded contracts through KPN, pursuant to state regulations and the bid requirements. So these are compliant contracts that you can utilize. And because the bid process has been completed, projects can begin quickly. So many times in as little as 30 days, as opposed to long periods of time or months by repeating the bid process when it's been done for you and compliantly bid. And so this contract adheres to the legal requirements specific to public works projects, and it provides greater control. The facilities and team, as well as the business office or the school board, you've got greater control over the whole process, and also in knowing options or having options, because we can really utilize a number of different things through the contract and give you good, better, best, or let you have flexibility. So it's a streamlined yet thorough procurement process that has additional benefits, to you. And these performance-based systems that we have for quality roofing and other building envelope solutions are included. And we utilize best-in-class local contractors to perform the labor portion. So this is local contractors, best in class. So it simplifies and expedites facility improvement projects while ensuring budget predictability, because this has already been bid and we tie into that bid and when we're preparing a proposal. So in many situations, if you're using a turnkey project, we can show you what the all-in costs are, and before you even make your decision, which is not the case with traditional bid scenarios where you're trying to meet a budget and many times have change orders and other issues that come up. So that ensuring that budget predictability is extremely beneficial and is really welcomed by many school districts that we work with. So what can be done, or what is available under the KPN cooperative contract that we have that was awarded to us? So roof management or roof asset management programs, diagnostics, maintenance, repair, restoration, which we've talked about. If there's component or system replacement, HVAC, so cleaning, sanitizing, also being able to restore those systems, exterior cladding systems, or again, window systems, repairs, rooftop safety solutions, audits, and as I mentioned before, general contracting or construction management is available. Paving, parking garage, concrete, masonry, flooring. Our national cooperative contract can be infiltrated. And applied. And so really all aspects of the building envelope can be utilized through this contract. And again, giving you flexibility, budget predictability, and options when you maybe didn't know what you were dealing with or what conditions you had, and giving you those options and ways to be able to have flexibility when finances change or circumstances change. Many times you can pivot or have additional options, and the contract allows you that flexibility as well. And then just it kind of wrapping up, throughout Pennsylvania, we've got a dedicated team of professionals that work very, very hard. They live and work and pay taxes and send their kids to school districts that you're from. And they've been providing roofing and building envelope solutions through cooperative purchasing in 64 of Pennsylvania's 67 counties. And then for nearly 300 of Pennsylvania's 500 school districts, we can count or show as clients. So trust is important and trust is earned. And so our local professionals are there and are dedicated to try to help not only proactively help you better manage, but also give you those options and those savings in ways that you benefit and can then show that you're good stewards of those public dollars and public funds. And so we welcome you to visit our microsite, yourroofexperts.com/Pennsylvania, where you can sign up or schedule, with one of those local professionals that are nearby and ready to help, a no cost or no obligation consultation. And so they'll help you achieve your facility goals. And we just very much look forward to working with you if we're not already. And we appreciate your attention and allowing us to present this information today.